Like all forms of philosophy, apologetics aim to defend certain truth propositions. For the Christian faith, these propositions are: God exists, Jesus is God, the Bible is trustworthy, Christianity is true, and God is knowable. Within the discipline of apologetics, there are 5 main methods that are regularly used to respond to any concerns, complaints, or criticisms against God, the Bible, and Christianity. And like all forms of philosophy, each of these 5 methods have distinct strengths and weaknesses. While there are other forms of apologetics, the following 5 are the most common and widely used within academics, ministry, and discipleship. First, classical apologetics. This method is called classical because it's been around the longest. Seeming to originate with early Christians like Justin Martyr, this method begins by focusing on the reasonableness of God's existence through logical argument. Such arguments include the moral, contingency, and various cosmological arguments as presented in our previous videos. You should definitely check them out. From there, the apologist would then argue that of all the gods available, the existence and supremacy of the Christian God makes the most sense based on historical evidence. This method's strength is found in its airtight argumentation and syllogistic propositions that promote reason as a solid foundation for God's existence. It seeks to bridge that cultural gap between reason and faith while illustrating how the two are not contradictions, but rather are two sides of the same proverbial coin. This method's weakness, however, is that it can so often lean into the thinking aspects of the Christian faith that it fails to address and adequately incorporate other aspects of a person's being into the conversation. Instead, it becomes more of a "I have an answer to everything" form of debate rather than becoming holistically persuasive. Second, evidential apologetics. If you forego the first step in the classical method and focus solely on the historical evidence and reliability of the Bible, specifically the New Testament, you would have evidential apologetics. This method is concerned with what actually happened in recorded history, both inside and outside the New Testament documents. This methodology incorporates textual criticism and analysis that considers eyewitness reliability, depiction of historical characters, transfer process of original documents to their copies, and general collection of all data pertaining to Jesus of Nazareth, including the actual occurrences of near-death experiences, visions, and archaeology. This method's strength is found on building a strong case that Jesus is God, historically, not just theologically. The historicity of the New Testament's narrative does what many logical syllogisms can't. It moves from potentially abstract philosophy to concrete reality. This method's weakness, however, is found in how it straddles the fence with regards to differentiating between theological interpretations of historical data and the historical data itself. With an emphasis on how to interpret the data, it is possible that any amount of data could be interpreted wrongly from both sides, Christian and non-Christian. Third, presuppositional apologetics. Everyone has a bias, for whatever reason, and everyone in one form or fashion subscribes to a worldview. A presupposition is a thing assumed beforehand. The presuppositional method is concerned with comparing and contrasting the various worldviews at play across the globe today, and it does this by primarily asking questions. A worldview is defined as a particular philosophy of life, or conception of reality. At the heart of this method is 2 steps. First, to know the Bible, since it's the primary source of the Christian's worldview. And second, to know the other worldviews and how they fail when asked the same questions as Christianity. This method's strength is found by deconstructing an individual's assumptions about life, meaning, truth, humanity, and so on. But it also is prepared to provide more satisfying answers in place of the other worldviews' poor answers. This is only accomplished by engaging in conversation, by listening and answering appropriately. This method's weakness, however, is that it ultimately purports that because God is on our side, we're right and you're wrong. This is because the method emphasizes how God ultimately changes our minds about Him, and we can't do this on our own. Fourth, cumulative apologetics. The classical method focused on reason, the evidential on history, and the presuppositional on assumptions. The cumulative method focuses on systems of belief. In short, the method's argument is that Christianity as a belief system makes the most sense of reality and everything in it. It accomplishes this by looking at the following 7 areas of any belief system: consistency, correspondence, comprehensiveness, simplicity, livability, fruitfulness, and conservation. By using these 7 tests of truthfulness to navigate our critique of any belief system, this method suggests that only Christianity provides satisfying results to such analysis. This method's strength is found in its willingness to adhere to universal critiques of all religious systems of belief. The focus is not on truth, but on answering the question, does this actually work? This provides a unique lens with which to analyze and dissect belief systems across the globe from every time and place, including our own. This method's weakness, however, is found in its greatest strength: the 7 tests of truthfulness. Why are these the criteria? And are certain tests more important than others? Are there more competent tests that we just haven't discovered? And what if these tests don't apply to a belief system, and so on? It seems that this method spends more of its time defending itself rather than defending the Christian faith. 5th, Reformed epistemology apologetics. This method comes from 2 ideas. First, the sensus divinitatis, or the sense of the divine, which comes from the works of Protestant reformers like John Calvin and Martin Luther, and epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. This method focuses on the common knowledge shared among all human beings about God and his existence. In fact, it's hard to discuss God without already having an idea of what God is like. The question is, how do we know about this God, what he is and what he isn't like? Where did this knowingness come from? How do people both know what God is like and what he isn't like? Knowing the positive and negatives of a thing has to come from somewhere, so from where? From who? How and why? This method's strength is found in how it builds an argument upon common knowledge that everyone everywhere at all times were or are either rejecting, accepting, or changing their interpretation of their knowledge about God. The idea that we can't discuss a thing without first having knowledge about that thing is surprisingly persuasive. This method's weakness, however, comes with the often overly complex explanation and answers associated with this type of defense of the faith. Many of the answers are far too academic and scholastic for the common man, who may not have degrees in philosophy, psychology, or what have you. And there you have it, the 5 most common and used apologetic methods. Each one has a place within our discipleship, and I have personally used all of them at one point or another, whether in conversation or debate. If you'd like to further your reading on these methods, I suggest the following texts: 5 Views on Apologetics, On Guard, Defending Your Faith with Reason and Precision, The Case for the Resurrection of Jesus, Presuppositional Apologetics, Stated and Defended, Mere Christianity, and Warranted Christian Beliefs. Be sure to check out the other videos in our ongoing apologetics series. Our next video will be over the 7 tests of truthfulness. I'm Taylor Drake. Happy reasoning.